Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek, welcome back to my channel. We've been talking a lot about unnecessary reboots lately with the Thundercats Roar fiasco. In this video though, I want to talk about the entertainment industry's aversion to admitting defeat and starting over decisively when a reboot is necessary. I've seen this go on for a while now and I don't understand it, especially in light of cases in which companies have been forced to admit defeat and then it proved quite lucrative for them to reboot. Just going back a little ways, let's start with Warner Bros. Trying to launch their DC Cinematic Universe. Warner Bros. Couldn't stick with anything at first. They hinted at trying to start the universe with Superman Returns, and Superman Returns did well in the theater. It wasn't a bomb or a flop by any means, but they didn't like some of the buzz the film received, so they pulled the plug and decided to reboot. Then they tried Green Lantern, and Green Lantern did flop. Eventually, when they remade a Superman film with Man of Steel, they learned all of the wrong lessons from Superman Returns. Then for whatever reason, they decided to double down on those wrong lessons. They were going to forge ahead, no matter the fact that Man of Steel was the most divisive superhero film in history. They maintained course and gave us Batman v Superman, which earned even more negative reception. Suicide Squad was a critical failure, and they wouldn't have had all the success they did with Wonder Woman were it not for the social politics involved in the marketing. And I shouldn't even have to mention Justice League, the decisive end to their dreams of a Marvel-like cinematic universe. Yet Warner Bros. Is still forging ahead, probably trying for some sort of tacit reboot without saying it's a reboot. Shazam, featuring a young Billy Batson inspired by the events in Justice League, and Aquaman 2, with an actual character from the Justice League film, are looming before us, so Warner Bros. Is clearly not trying for a clean slate. I wouldn't be surprised then if Shazam suffers for Justice League in much the same way Solo is suffering from The Last Jedi now. The DC Cinematic Universe was heavily influenced by the failing New 52 in DC Comics. As soon as Dan Didio and Jim Lee obtained the power to do so, they remade the entire DC Universe in the likeness of Batman. All characters became darker, younger, hipper, broodier. The New 52 received a flash-in-the-pan boost in sales for a while, sure. For the first time ever, Action Comics and Detective Comics were resetting to zero, and the entire universe was going to look different. And it did bring in some new fans, but none of that was sustainable. The truth is in the numbers. Sales fell drastically, laughably low, to the point that the decree came from on high to make a change. So they announced Rebirth. And it wasn't a reboot, they said. It's not a reboot, it's a rebirth. But it was a reboot. Drawn out and sleight of hand, but it was still a reboot. And it was decisive, even though they didn't admit it. The New 52 Superman is erased now, with all of his relationships and tantrums. Wonder Woman realized her God of War past is a lie. The New 52 Justice League origin is now scrapped and the characters have slowly returned to their previous ages. These changes have made Rebirth and post-Rebirth a definitive success. DC's creators are treating their fans with respect, people are enjoying spending time with these characters and in this universe again. And it's showing in the sales. Now let's consider an example of a company both admitting to a reboot and making it a decisive one. For a long time, Sony refused to let the Spider-Man franchise go, no matter what. After the franchise had remained stagnant for a while, they made Amazing Spider-Man, which wasn't everything fans wanted it to be, but it had its supporters. Sales-wise, it certainly merited a sequel, so they made Amazing Spider-Man 2, which showed they were ultimately too busy universe-building to tell good stories. They weren't admitting defeat, though. Sinister Six was happening, Amy Pascal would have her girl power silver and black film. Then the gods of media smiled upon us and allowed the deal to go through with Marvel. Sony agreed to allow the MCU to reboot the character. We have our new Tom Holland Spider-Man now. Whatever your opinion of it, the reboot was hugely financially successful. So rebooting a failing character, universe, or franchise in general that fans are divided over can be a financial success. But Warner Bros. Refuses to do it with their DC films, and Marvel refuses to do it with their comics. I can't think of a bigger misnomer than Marvel's fresh start. It's like when Taco Bell announces a new menu. You know they have all of the same 5 ingredients they've always had. They're just piecing it together differently, moving condiments around, coming up with new names. It's not fresh, it's the same old thing. We might have a good book here or there. I've heard people praising Avengers #1 and now Spider-Man #800. But impressive as that is, it's nothing new in the big picture. Bright spots have shown through from time to time. And Marvel fans have desperately clung to them in the midst of the politics and arrogance that was and is the greater norm. So I'm constantly astonished at this refusal to back down, at this insistence upon saving face. This is fine, this burning house around us is fine. I understand the choice from a human ego perspective, but I don't understand it from a financial perspective, because it's bad business. It seems that the shareholders in corporate suits would step in at some point, as they did with DC Rebirth apparently, and say, we want to increase this bottom line and we don't care who might feel shamed in order to do it. I think the one thing holding them back in many cases is this wave of social politics that has infested everything. In our Twitter-led culture, people and businesses are terrified to be labeled politically incorrect. Even if it's just a few hipsters on Twitter who decide they're going to cause trouble and alert everyone to this writer or artist who they perceive as unwoke, the publishers and production companies are terrified of the negative buzz and word of mouth. But I don't know if that kind of buzz is necessarily going to hurt businesses anymore. I think the average consumer is growing increasingly tired of this social justice warrioring. I know anytime I personally see the usual crowd blow up over this creator or this film or whatever, I make it a point to go and check out that work and decide for myself. 9 times out of 10, it's something I end up quite interested in. I would never have become such a fan of John Malin's were it not for Chase Masterson virtue signaling against him on Twitter. These anti-this person or anti-this work Twitter campaigns are now little more than just vast and free advertising. I like to think that people are waking up to this nonsense, and I hope eventually the companies that own these franchises will wake up as well, and do whatever necessary to right the course of their properties, even if it is a reboot or another reboot. Don't settle if the foundation is rotten. The house will fall, so build it correctly from the beginning. Let me know in the comments any creators or works you've discovered because of some outcry on social media. Which franchises do you desperately want to see start again from a clean slate, even just in an Ultimate Universe type of scenario? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.